Hello, CIS C157 students. Welcome to week 3, module 3. I wanted to record a brief video going over some of the concepts that you'll need for your programming assignment for this week. And in this video, we're going to walk through how to build a simple interactive Python script. Specifically, we're going to cover how to ask a user for information interactively and then store that information in variables. And then we're going to take that information and pre-format a log output that we want to print out to the terminal. Now, in your assignment on Canvas, you're going to be asked to build a security log generator for a security operations center analyst position. I want you to figure out that specific scenario on your own. So today, I'm going to demonstrate the exact same coding concepts that you're going to need to use using a different scenario. And the one I chose for today is a self-checkout terminal at a library. So by the end of this video, you'll have the tools you need to apply everything that you learned to your Module 3 assignment for the SOC Analyst Log Generator. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is create my Python program. So I'm going to call this one library checkout.py. We got our new program here. So let's start off first by getting some information from the user. So I'll just make a note for myself here. We want to ask the user for their name and the book title that they're going to be checking out. In our library scenario, we have to know the name of the person borrowing the book and then again the title of the book that they're going to be checking out. And we're going to use Python's built-in input function in order to get the information we need from the user. So for the reader's name, I'm going to call that variable reader underscore name and then equals, and we will use our input function. So input, I'll open parentheses, and we'll prompt the user to please enter your name, :space. Now, notice what I did here. So I typed in input, which is the name of a built-in function in Python used to get user input on the terminal or command line. And then within the parentheses, we have a place to put a prompt or a message to be displayed to the user to instruct them on what type of information we want from them. So I took all of that we get back from the user and I assigned that to a variable called reader underscore name. And I was very explicit. I didn't just call this name or like the letter N. I wanted to call it reader name because naming your variables clearly is very, very important in code. For a small script like this, it might not seem that important, but as you start developing larger programs with multiple files and hundreds or thousands of variables, having very, very distinct variable naming makes it a lot easier for other people who are reading your code to understand at a glance what's going on. Makes it easier for you as well if you're looking back at an old piece of code and trying to remember what a variable was or what type of value it holds there. The other thing I'll point out is that in Python, it's kind of recommended to use what's called snake case for variable naming conventions. And snake case simply means that if there is like a variable like reader name that would be 2 words, instead of doing a space, you just replace any space with an underscore and everything is lowercase, always lowercase. And it's just a style convention. It really doesn't have any actual impact on the code. It's just more what Python recommends for their style. If you've done other programming languages like JavaScript or Java or C in the past, you might be used to what's known as camel case, where instead of lowercase and instead of using an underscore to separate spaces and variable names, you would start each word with a capital letter. So it would be reader and then name. And that would be how you would name it using camel case. And again, that's a kind of common style or coding guideline in other languages, but for Python, we like to stick to snake case. I do want to make it clear though, either of these will work, right? So this is just style related, has nothing to do with syntax errors or whether or not the code will run. All right, so we got our reader name. Now, the next piece of info we have to get is the name of the book that they want to check out. So I'll call this variable book title. And we're going to use the same exact input function here. So we'll do input, and then our prompt will be, please enter the title of the book, :space right there. All right, so we got our 2 pieces of information from the user. Now we have to move on to kind of the last piece of this assignment, which is to construct the log message that we want to print out to the terminal. So there are two main ways that we can do this in Python. You can use what's known as string concatenation, using the plus sign to form a string and kind of compose a string along with variables. You could also use what are known as F strings in Python, which does the same exact thing but is a little bit more modern and generally considered the cleaner way to do this. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate for you here. I'm actually going to show both versions because I think that your textbook focuses on string concatenation to start, which is a little bit older, and you'll see kind of right here in this example why I don't prefer string concatenation when I'm printing variables mixed with pre-written strings like this. So to do string concatenation, first we have to create a variable that's going to contain our log message. So I'll call this the checkout log. Okay, and then in a set of double quotes, we're going to start forming our output string here. So I'm going to open up some brackets and I'm going to type in checkout, kind of the header for each log message. And then we want to start with the first piece of information, which is our reader name. So I'll do reader space, and then we'll go ahead and do a single quote here. And then I'm going to do a plus sign, and here we're going to add our reader name. Then another plus sign. I'm going to open my quotes again, close off a single quote, and we'll say that they borrowed the book, another plus sign, and book title. And then we're going to do another plus sign, close the single quote, and do a period. Okay, so let me run this program really quickly so that you can see what the output looks like. So if we run this here, please enter your name. So I'll do Mike. Please enter the title of your book, Intro to Python. Okay, and so then you can see, whoops, I've got to print the last thing. Let's try it one more time. So Mike, Intro to Python. Okay, and so you could see right here, close this panel. Here is the log message that we printed out. So we start with our checkout line header, and then the reader Mike in single quotes borrowed the book Intro to Python in single quotes there. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted the output to look like. If you look back at the string we constructed here, to me this is kind of hard to read. You have to remember things like, putting a space before the single quote, the reader name, and then closing the single quote and having a space. And there's just a lot of plus signs, and it's easy to get confused here, in my opinion, when you're constructing a string or an output message using the string concatenation method. So instead, I'm going to delete all of this, and we're going to learn how to do the same thing using F strings in Python, or formatted strings here. So to use an F string in Python, you're going to start the same way with like double quotes to put in your information. You're just going to prepend the letter F in front of those double quotes, and this indicates to Python that we want to use these F strings or a formatted string. Now, the real benefit to F strings is that you're able to inject a variable directly into a sentence without opening and closing the double quotes multiple times, simply using curly braces. So let me show you what this looks like. We'll start off the same way. We're going to start with our brackets, and we'll write checkout. We'll do a space, and then I'll say reader, and then in single quotes, I want to put in the reader name right here, right? So I'm going to come back to this in a second, and then we'll do what did I write? Borrowed the book, and then there's the book title, and we end with a period, right? So in between these single quotes are kind of where I want to put my variables. Now, using F strings, I can just open up a set of curly braces. And inside of these curly braces, I put in whatever variable I want to inject in. So this will be reader name. And this last set of single quotes here will be the book title. Just like that. So if we look at that, to me, that's a lot easier to read here, right? I can see exactly what's going to be printed out in one line with all of the spacing without any pluses or kind of multiple double quotes here. And it's very clear to me where I'm injecting the variables, right? Right in between these curly braces, there's even nice syntax highlighting so that you can tell the difference between plain strings, which are green in my text editor, and then these variable injections, which are colored white in between these curly braces. Okay, so I think that reads a lot cleaner. And you can also use the brackets and all the specific formatting same way as you would with string concatenation. So when this runs, Python's automatically going to swap out anything in these curly braces with the actual value of the variable. So the last step was obviously to print the final message here, which we already used or did using our print function. So I'll go ahead and run this one more time for you all so that you can see we get the same message. So I'll do Mike, and then I get intro to Python. And right here, we can see our same formatted message, but we wrote a little bit less code, and I think it's a lot cleaner and easier to read using these F strings. Okay, I want to point out one other thing here. So, and then one more. All right, so these notes, these lines that are in gray in my text editor that start with the hashtag or octothorpe symbol here, these are comments in Python. And so comments are notes, again, for someone reading the code. They are not actual code that the Python interpreter will execute when you run this program. Comments are important, again, to remind yourself kind of what specific sections of your program are doing, and then also for anyone else who might be reading your code, whether they're downloading it and wanting to run it on their own and they're curious, or whether they're fellow developers who are working on a project with you. Comments, same thing with variable naming. They're just very explicit, kind of highlighting areas of the code and specifying what those areas should be doing. So your assignment asks you to make at least 3 comments throughout your code, and this is the exact way you're going to do it. You can choose where to put the comments. They don't have to be exactly like this for your assignment, but you should have at least 3 of them, and any line that you start with this pound sign or hashtag symbol here, anything you type after it will be a comment. It's important to note these don't span multiple lines. So if I were to say ask the user for their name and book title and name your variable as well, this second line is not going to be respected as a comment. So if I really wanted to do 2 lines, I would have to put another hashtag and then, add more comments here. And so for your comments for this assignment, they're short enough probably to stay on 1 line. You won't have to worry about that, but I just wanted to point out that this won't wrap around to multiple lines for you. Okay, so we ran our program. That worked exactly as expected. Let's go ahead and transfer over to the Canvas course so that we can look at the specific assignment you're working on and kind of highlight a couple additional things. So looking at the Canvas assignment for you all here, again, your specific scenario is that you're a junior cybersecurity analyst at a security operations center, and you're going to write a small script to get a username and a system that user is trying to access. And then the script will generate a log message that will be printed out to the terminal here. So you're going to need to create 3 variables just like we did. Instead of name, you're looking for username. Instead of book title, you're going to ask them to give you the name of a system that they want to access. And then finally, there's going to be a log message that you want to store in a variable first. So don't just print the log message directly. Make sure that you're storing it pre-formatted in a variable and then printing that variable. You're using the input function to do this. You can use either string concatenation or F string, so whichever one you want to work with. Maybe try it in both so you can get a feel for which one you prefer. And then here's an example of the specific format. So where I used checkout in my script, just go back to that real quick. So you can see in my log message, I have this checkout in brackets here. You're going to do a similar thing. Yours is just going to be called log. And you can get a little creative with that one too. I just want a header for it. So if yours says security log or something else, that's fine. But make sure that you have brackets at the front so we can kind of, at a glance, see the start of every line of log output with multiple lines are printed out. And then same thing, you're going to print out the username and what system they tried to access here. 3 comments in your code, just like we went over. And then last thing I want to touch on are the submission requirements again. So it's really, really important that you copy and paste your source code into a Word document. I do not want screenshots of your source code, right? I don't want screenshots of the terminal in your output. If there's a screenshot of your output that includes your source code, that's fine, but you will not get full credit if you don't explicitly copy and paste the actual text of the source code into the document that you submit for your final assignment. Okay? And then, of course, screenshot of your results just to show that your program is running as expected. So your screenshot for this assignment will include the user input that you give when the user is prompted for their username in the system they're accessing, as well as the final log message that's printed out. So it'll be like 3 lines that should be kind of output for your screenshot there. If you get errors in your code when you're coding and trying to run it, do not worry. Again, that's a really good opportunity to learn. So slow down and try to read the error message and try to figure out if the error message is telling you where you might want to look in your code to fix an issue. If the error message doesn't make any sense, that's another great use of AI, in my opinion. I would just copy and paste just the error message and put it into an AI tool that you use and see if that AI can kind of guide you on the best way to fix that problem. Another thing, you can always feel free to use the discussion boards to ask for help for any of these programming assignments. So as we move further in the course and the assignments get a little bit longer and more complicated, it might be frequent that a lot of students have questions, and generally students will all have very similar questions, or there might be one specific area a lot of students are stuck on. So in addition to kind of your weekly discussion assignments that are specific prompts, you can also always use the discussion board to just post a question saying, hey, here are a few lines of my code. I'm getting some error message. This is what the error message is. Can anyone help me out here? Did anyone run into this as well? So I encourage you all to do that. And that can count as well for your interaction with other students if you choose to respond to any of those messages that you see for your responding to 2 classmates. I will count those as well as the regular prompt discussion posts. So either one of those work as long as you're posting kind of 3 times total. All right, one key thing though, don't post all of your code. It's pretty hard for this assignment because again, looking back at the code, it's pretty short here, not that many lines of code. But again, as the assignments get longer, I don't want you to copy paste your entire source code into a discussion post because students who haven't done the assignment yet are going to kind of get all of the answers. So try to limit it to just the areas of your code where you have a question or where you're getting an error message and post those, not the whole thing. All right. So that's it from me today. I hope this video was helpful. Good luck with your SOC analyst script and have fun coding. Until next week.